Welcome to the Landscaping Podcast. My name is Joel Barnett and I'm your host. And today's episode, I'm talking with Simon Buchanan from Landart Landscapes, a design and construction company based in Melbourne. And Simon is another guest who had an interest in graphic design when he was in school and also started out with a great landscaper to work with for his apprenticeship, working with TLC with Scott Wynd. So another couple of common traits that come through with some of the successful guests we've spoken to have come through again with this one. So that was interesting again. And I also loved how in the 6 years that he worked with TLC, he through landscaping, Simon went to 2 different countries as part of work, basically. So that was pretty cool. And as a landscape builder, it was great talking to Simon about the way that they do things at Landart. So they're very big on systems and processes and continually refining them and their scheduling for projects because they've got multiple projects on at once and they're decent sized projects as well. So it was great to talk to him about how he goes about that and also the way about how they keep continuing to add to the processes. So there's lots to take from this chat. So hopefully you enjoy this chat with Simon Buchanan. Simon, thank you very much for joining us on the Landscaping Podcast. My first question for you is, how did you start in the industry?
Thanks, Joel. Thanks for having me, mate. How did I start in the industry? Through high school, I had absolutely no intention of becoming a landscaper. Hadn't thought twice about it. Always liked the hands-on side of things, but went to a high school that was very, how should I say it, sort of push you in the direction of going to uni. You know, and it wasn't really trade centred, and it was sort of almost frowned upon if you were looking to finish school and go into a trade. You know, I did my full VCE, but through those 2 years of VCE were very much around, right, what uni course are you doing? You know, where are you going to uni? What are you going to do? All that. So I sort of followed in that path a little bit. I love graphic design. I did that right through school and was good at it and quite enjoyed that. So ended up applying to go to uni to do graphic design, got accepted, and it was the day I got the acceptance letter, I just had this light bulb moment and went, hang on, I'm not going back to school for another 3-4 years, whatever it might be. I need to get out and work and use my hands. And look, I'd always had a bit of a passion for landscaping. My dad was a landscaper many moons ago when I was a younger kid, but so I don't specifically remember it, but I know of it and he speaks about it and you know, all the rest of it. And so it was a bit of a thing that I did have a bit of a passion for. I was helping him do some stuff around home and in the garden and so on. And I had a mate at the time who was landscaping and, you know, got sort of chatting to him and, you know, he was asking questions about it. And he said, look, man, why don't you come and give it a crack? And this was sort of, you know, as I finished school and, you know, obviously got accepted to uni. And, you know, at the time I was working just part-time with my dad. You know, he owns a motor mechanic business now and you know, he made it very, very clear that I'm not to become a motor mechanic. So I'm like, all right, well, that exhausts that option out. So I was looking elsewhere, obviously. And then, spoke to a mate of mine, Ben, who was a landscaper. And he said, you know, I'll try to get you a start with the company I work for. So he put in a bit of a word for me and got me a start in the new year. And that's how it all kicked off. So, so that mate of mine was Ben Mead. I'm not sure if you know Ben, he works for Scotty from TLC. And that's how I got the start with Scott. And just started on site in the new year. Had absolutely no idea what I was doing, but hit the ground running and got stuck into it. And that's how it all began.
Not a bad place to start your landscaping career.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I was just out of pure luck that, you know, this mate of mine, Ben, who was working for him and, you know, got to start with Scotty, didn't know anything about him, didn't know, you know, his history or, you know, and that was a long time ago. But, you know, even that by the time I started, he was already a very, very well-known figure in the landscape industry and very good at what he did. And nothing's changed in that regard, as you're well aware. But so I was very fortunate to get a start with Scotty and never turned back. You know, did my whole apprenticeship with Scotty, stayed on for another 3 years or so. So I worked for Scotty for around about 6 years before going out and starting my own business.
Did you learn anything about running a business while you're working there?
Bits and pieces, yeah. Towards the latter part of working for Scott, he got me involved in going to meet clients, quoting jobs. We did a bit of work for the local council in our area at the time, and you know, they weren't huge jobs, but you know, they were regular, and so we'd squeeze them in as infill jobs in between the nicer landscapes and pools and so on that we did, and so you know, he didn't really want too much to do with them. He was just like, all right, that job's coming, Simo, can you go and have a look at it? just take all. He just basically briefed me on what to do. Go take all the notes, get the plans, see what they want to do, come back. I'll give you the rates, punch it all into the computer, and get a quote happening. So I've got a little bit of experience in terms of pricing and the process and meeting and bits and pieces, but not a whole lot. It was more centered around obviously the on-site side of things, and pretty early on I was I put my hand up for it, but I threw myself in the deep end, wanting to learn and wanting to step up. I think I was a second year apprentice, and we just had an abundance of work going on, and we had a big job out at Fern Tree Gully, which was just sleeper walls for this new site, and we had all these other projects going on that the main foreman had to run, and so they needed someone to run this job, and they're like, look, someone has to step up here. And there was 3 or 4 of us apprentices. They're like, look, is anyone keen to do it? And I said, I'll give it a crack. Let's go. And so I just sort of threw myself in it, took the responsibility. Was stressful, I had really no idea. I was a second year apprentice, but from that point on, it was sort of I didn't sort of go back from there. I just kept wanting to progress and kept getting given the responsibility to run projects and wanted more and wanted to learn, and I found myself through those times as I progressed more. We started getting, while I was working with Scotty, he started doing pools. So we started learning a lot about pools, and, we were getting thrown in. We were tiling the pools ourselves and everything, so we were learning every single aspect of landscape construction, swimming pools, start to finish, on small projects, on really big projects, on some really challenging projects, but it was invaluable skills from a hands-on perspective. That is what is my biggest takeaway from working with Scotty, as probably everyone that has worked with Scotty, and there's a lot of good figures in the industry now that would attest the same. We really learnt a lot. It was a good place to work. He's a great guy to work for, and taught me everything I know from a landscape perspective.
How did what made you go out and start your own business?
It was probably, throughout my apprenticeship, my trade school teacher was really keen on entering me into this World Skills competition. And I don't know if you know much about that. You do, yeah. So, World Skills competition at that time, it started with a regional competition, which they used to run at the Melbourne Flower and Garden Show. So he entered me into that, which was just a day thing. I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll go have a crack at it. Benny, who I mentioned, who got me the job with Scotty, he'd been right through it and won the regional, won the national, and went overseas and competed in Helsinki in the year prior or so to me actually doing the regional one. And Scotty had actually done it as well. Scotty had been through World Skills. At that stage, there wasn't an international pathway for it for landscaping, but he won the regional and the national as well. So there's a bit of a history with it in the company. And so when I got asked to do it, I'm like, okay, yep, let's do it. Let's have a crack. And so I went and did that, won the regional one, got partnered up with the guy that came runner up to me to do the national competition. We, again, just, didn't really do too much training or anything for it. We just got thrown into this 3-day thing, I think it was, for the national one. We managed to win that. And then we got the opportunity to go over to Japan and represent Australia, in which we finished 4th, I think it was. So a really great experience, from the regionals through to going, trip over to Japan to compete against the rest of the world. So did that. And it was probably then coming back on the back of that international competition, and sort of a lot of people, through the local footy club I played for, or through friends and family, my parents' friends and so on, that knew what I was doing, knew that I was in this competition, and that I was effectively going all right for myself, I suppose, from a landscape perspective, that they were getting me to come and do, I need this done at my place on the weekend and that kind of. So that, like most businesses start, you get an abundance of cashies that you just can't control on the weekends anymore, and you sort of get to a point where you think, I've either got to make the call here or stop doing the cashies, or so it just got to that point. I used that, I suppose, World Skills as a bit of a marketing tool to sort of kick off myself into business. So that was the end of 2007 that I did the World Skills competition, and came back from that, finished the year out with Scotty, and then started fresh in 2008 with my own business.
Yeah, right. And what sort of advertising were you doing apart from getting the cashies?
Well, back then, I think I started off by putting a couple of ads in the local paper, which is just a thing of the past now, I would say. But that was what, But that's what people, that's what you did back then. You put an ad out in the local paper for landscaping. I think I got, it was like a 2-week ad you'd pay for at the start, and I got 25 inquiries, and back then you go and see every single person. So within 2 weeks I've gone and seen 25 people. I would have got one job out of it. It would have been a crappy little bit of paving or something, but you just had to throw yourself out there. But the majority of it sort of flowed on from word of mouth. I had a couple of nice big sort of projects, not big projects, but like a big long brick retaining wall on the back of a tennis court, and then there was, I think, some paving around a pool, like a big job, concrete-based paving, so it was enough to keep me. And I employed someone right from the get-go. Day one, I started with someone, a mate I played footy with, so it was the two of us. So, I had to have the work there, and I had a couple of months to start with, and then, did some advertising, word of mouth. Then we started doing some, subcontract work for Scott as well, or he would, have some jobs going where he'd get me to price to do, say, the paving on the job. So we price that, win that, go in and do that for him. And it just started to evolve and sort of snowball from there. Yeah.
And when did you start getting work from designers? Or did that start coming in?
Early days, it was pretty much just from Scott. So Scotty then, he was doing design when I was there, but then it grew and it started to get bigger, and he started TLC Design. I think it was a little bit after I left, or just around the time that I left. And I think you've had Darren from Mint Design on. I've listened to that podcast, and I don't know, he talks about it his time when he still works with Scott now through Mint Design, but with TLC Design, that was back then. It went for about 5 years before they'd made the switch to turn into Mint Design. So we did a lot of work through them. So Scotty would always have an abundance of work. So like he would, still be doing landscape construction, but the sort of overflow work as such would come on to us to price. So for a long time there, it was just through them, through TLC Design. And it was, my own stuff. And it was a big sort of mix of both. I didn't really start getting a lot of work through other designers that I do now till probably 5-6 years ago, I reckon. So for a long time there, it was sort of my own work. It was a bit of Scotty's work, and it was just, that was enough to keep us going. And probably the first sort of 8-9 years, I only really had between 1 and 4 employees, and things were so different. That first sort of half, I've been in business for 16 years, 16 years now, thereabouts. So that first half of the time, it was between 1 and 4 employees. I was on the tools the whole time. It was very, very different to how it is now. So, but that was sort of how it started, evolved, and the longer you go on in business, and if you're doing a good product and doing a good thing, word of mouth and just referrals, and then organically grows, just through those avenues anyway. So
how did you change from having 1 to 4 employees to what you've got now? Like, how many have you got now?
I've got, landscape wise, I've got 12 landscapers and 1 carpenter. So now it's, and out of that 12 landscapers, one of them is my project manager. So he oversees the whole construction, all of the construction projects. So he schedules, he converses with clients, he takes care of sort of, once I win a project, I hand it to him and he takes care of it. Under him, we've got a construction manager. So he stays out on site all the time, and he sort of bounces between, we've always got 3 projects running now. He bounces between the 3 as to where he's sort of needed for the most technical element, I guess, and where he's most required, but he still oversees all 3 jobs and ensures they're running to the level we want it to. And then, we've got the 3 teams. So, it has grown significantly. It went, I think, how did that all sort of come about? I think it probably came about around about 2016, probably the start of 2016 was when, I think there was a stage there where it was myself and an apprentice, and that was all I had. And, I had a couple of guys leave and they went out and started their own thing together. And, and it was just a transitional phase where it was sort of left with just myself and an apprentice. And it was a bit of a, what am I doing moment? I've been in business for 8 years or so, and I'm still only here with, 1 apprentice, but from there, it quickly evolved. With a mate of mine, Luke, I started striking pools later in 2016. By the time that came about, I'd put on another 2 or 3 guys because the work was getting busier. And it was probably as we started striking pools, about a year later, we hired our first someone for the office staff just to run our office. That was a massive step. We're like, I'm going to put this person on to work in the office. What are they going to do after Monday? We're freaked out about it. We've always only hired people that make your money on site, and make your money on an hourly basis. So to get someone in on the office, we were just completely scared about, but we took the plunge and did it. And that set off the chain of events to sort of where we are today in terms of the team being so big. So, we got him on. He quickly got our systems and everything running from a business perspective, really well run and in an orderly fashion, and sort of helped us, gain momentum and advertise and bring in pools and bring in landscape jobs. And I think just the link between the two, with the pools that had come in, that generally in a lot of cases be landscaping to go with them, and design with it as well. We do a little bit of design and so be designing these pools and landscapes and then winning more work. And so it quickly snowballed into a bigger thing where we then had the ability to put on more people. And with them, as the teams grew on site, the same with the pool company, we now have five staff on site that work for the pool company. As that grew with both of them, it gave us the ability to be able to put more people on in the office and to back the amount of work we had going out on site. And it just grew like that. So I say it'd probably be, at that time when we did start the pool company, that was probably the turning point as to where it then grew. And since it's grown, probably the last 3 or 4 years has been pretty steady in terms of employees. It's all been, from a landscape perspective, it's been around that 10 mark since then. And it's great, it's manageable, and I'm really content with it, how it's going at the moment.
Now, what was the point where you decided to step off the tools? Was it a black and white moment, or? It
wasn't really a black and white moment. Well, it was, I don't think it was a black and white moment. It was just that it just got to the point where I almost got told to get off, like forced to get off the tools by the guys, on site, because I was more of a detriment than I was a help on site. The phone would just be ringing and I'd be distracted, and then I'd be, hang on, I've got to go and check this steel fixer and set him up for this pool, and there'd be this going on and that. And, just be between the two companies, I was required just, elsewhere, and it's just too hard. So I made the call. It was probably been about 3 years now where I've been completely sort of off the tools. And I say completely, like I still love the, getting out and, getting in and getting my hands dirty and helping the boys and so on. But it is really hard to do now just because we have got so much things going on. But look, if we've got a huge, big concrete pour, or it's generally the concrete pours are the main ones where we need the sets of hands and guys that can screed and finish and trowel, which most of my guys can, but I'll get in and help, on a random occasion with a concrete pour. But to say that, we're mid-May now, I've probably done 3 days work this year on site. Yeah.
And with your graphics design background, did you do any hand drawings with your designs?
Bits and pieces, yeah. So the design part of what I do now, the design isn't a massive thing with what we do. We are heavily construction and swimming pool based, but I have got a designer who works in here, and I've got a draftsman that basically just does all drafting for us for permits and so on for all the pools and construction side of things. I do obviously the design consults for the work that does come in, and my part of the design is sort of hand sketching what the design's sort of going to be and briefing the designers on that. So bits and pieces of that. And it does obviously help having, a bit of a history with graphic design and being good at it, I suppose, and something I enjoy that does, I suppose, link that little bit to it. But that's sort of as far as it goes.
And what sort of percentage of work are you getting from other designers compared to doing your own designs at the moment?
Oh, look, I'd say probably the work that we do for other designers would probably form 80% of what we do. We've built some good relationships with a number of good designers now, which, we have been going for, a period of years now, that we're really really big on maintaining those, those relationships and delivering a really good product every time. So that, that being the case, we do put a lot of time and effort into everything to do with those projects and ensure that they're always top notch, so that we get the next one and the next one again. And, so that is, the crux of our landscape construction business now is for other designers. Yeah.
And with the where the work is coming from, do you get a lot of it coming directly from the pool side of the company? Like, are there people contacting the pool, striking pools, saying they want a pool and landscaping, or is it more contacting Landart wanting both?
It's probably a good mix of both. Like, as I said, like with most of our work, 80% of our work being for landscape designers through Landart, we do get a big amount of work come our way that's got pools and landscapes incorporated in it. So there's a good balance of that. With the pool company, we get a really high amount of inquiry through the pool company. We've marketed that really well right from the get-go, and so it does get a whole big amount of inquiry. And not every pool has got landscape stuff to go with it. They've got other people will have other landscapes engaged. Some jobs it might only just be some pool coping around it, some pool fence. So we do a significant more amount of pools than we can keep up to do landscapes on all of them. So it is a bit of a balance between the two.
Yeah, because I imagine that would be a challenge as well, because it doesn't take as long to do a pool, and when you want someone getting the landscaping done, but your landscaping side is booked out so far.
Yeah, it does get hard. But look, we do plan for those jobs. So the jobs that come in as pool and landscape jobs through, say, our designers that we do work for. We come in, they get priced as one project, obviously through the two separate entities, but sent over. And if we win the project, well, then we schedule the project as one. So those ones we've got in the system and they're planned, and they're all right. Well, we know that I can't get to that from a landscape perspective till the start of October. Great. Well, let's not start the pool till mid-September, so then we can go in, get the pool show in. That's done, then we roll straight into the landscape. So we schedule and plan those ones. For all the other pools that we do that have got just a minor amount of landscaping work around it, we do use some other small landscaping companies through striking pools that we do engage to do just smaller landscape jobs around the pools that just entail some coping and small amounts of paving, little pool fence, bits and pieces like that we find it hard to be able to take on. We have 3 projects running at all times for Landart, but they're generally on a bigger scale, and we need those guys on those jobs all the time. We never start a job and then go away and then we'll start this one and then go back. We're methodical in our scheduling, that we come and start a job, we're there till we finish it, and then we're on to the next one, and then that goes for all the crews. So look, it works 100%, but there's definitely a bigger capacity of the amount of work that striking pools does in terms of how many pools they get out of versus what we can cater for them.
Yeah. So how did you get methodical at your scheduling for the projects? Is that something that you were taught, or you just learned it as you go from experience?
No, look, it is something that probably Chris, who's our business manager, who I spoke about before, was the first person we hired in the office, and he's been with us since 2017 now. He brought into the fore. So, he come from another construction business that he was running sort of the operational side of things. So he came with a lot of, I guess, wealth of information, some good programs in terms of, scheduling, project management, and good systems and processes as to how to run and manage projects and stay on top of the scheduling side of things. So we use a very varied amount of sort of apps, or if you like, programs to track these things. The one that we use for scheduling is Monday. I don't know if you've heard about it, but that's a really good app that we can, all of our employees got access to. And we go in and schedule a project start to finish. If it's got a pool in it, we add the pool into that same schedule, so that it's if it's a pool landscape, it's project managed and run as one, and it really works well. You can adjust things if required, and once the stage is done, you tick it off, and it sends everyone that's allocated within that job an email to let them know that it's done. So it might be that it's a billing stage for, say, the decking's completed, the job at Plenty. Well, Nick, our project manager, will click that's done. That'll send an email to myself and Chris, and then Chris will know to then be able to bill for that stage. So that, it works in an array of things down the line. And those things that we're forever trying to make better. We're forever trying to improve on, and we've really been this through the sort of COVID period, where we essentially sort of had to stop and slow down, or I guess with the output of the work we're doing on site, gave us the time to sort of hone in on how we can get better from an operational point of view. And since that time, and still now, it's an ever evolving beast that we're trying to make better. And we have now, Chris, he has everyone in our office, on a weekly basis, they've got to send through one process every week. So create a new process of something that you do on a day-to-day basis. It can be as simple as how you reply to an email to a new client. Give me the process of how you write that email and what is descripted in that email, so that we're trying to set up our business so that every single part of the operational side of thing has a process, just so that it can run smoothly. If someone's off sick, someone can step in and just grab those processes and carry on. And, so that filters all the way through sort of our whole operational team, and, all these different project management apps and, calendars and all these things that work and integrate together all help that run really nice and smoothly.
I absolutely love that idea, because I've spoken about systems and processes a lot in the podcast, and how overwhelming it can be if you've been in business for 15 years to then start to do it. So, having everyone do one a week is an awesome way to do it, because then you're just gradually building it up, and then once you've sort of run out, then you can just add them as you go. So, that's an awesome way to do it.
Yeah, it is. And look, it's something that our accountant has been really heavy on driving us for as well. He looks at businesses as, from their value and saleability, not that we're looking to sell the businesses, but businesses, his point of view on it is that, businesses are worth nothing if they don't have processes. So it doesn't matter at the end of the day who you end up employing, or if someone comes or someone goes, if you create all the correct processes of how your business runs A to Z, and have those, on hand for anyone to step into any role and use, they're going to be able to pick it up. But yes, some of it might take some training or take some more time than others, but essentially, if you have all those correct processes from A to Z, well, then you could go and put this business up for sale, and it's going to be worth a good amount of money, because you have got all those processes in place on how to run it. So someone can come in and buy that business and step in and pick up those processes and carry on. So that's what as I said, we're big on it, we're growing, we're trying to do it to not to sell by any means, but we're just trying to get the operational things, down to a T. And with all these different applications and things that we use and quoting systems and all the rest of it, we're even further trying to refine that. Again, we thought we had it good, but now we're actually in the process of building our own program that does that. So we'll take essentially from when an inquiry comes through all the way through to take off, going back and forth, quoting that project turning into a live project, scheduling the project, creating purchase orders for, say, subcontractors, if there is some, OH&S, project management, all the way through to the handing over of that project. We're going to have a program that can do that start to finish, and that's what we're working on in the background at the minute. It is costing us a little bit of money, but we see that money as a big investment in our businesses, I say businesses, because there is, the few we're working under the same roof. It's a good investment in them running efficiently for years to come, and only just further enhancing the operational side of things. So,
do you have any job costing processes so that when the guys on site, so you can keep track of how much everything is costing, so you make a profit?
Yeah, we're big on that. That's one of the biggest things we are. We do keep track of. We've got methods of tracking every individual category of what we do. So sort of how you would lay out a general landscape quote. You're going to have your line items of preliminaries, excavation, concrete base, paving, decking, all the rest of it. Well, those line items, we track them on an individual basis throughout the project. So essentially we track it in the office from all the materials that come in against each allocation. And then we also track through our timesheet app that the guys all have. They've got all separate categories for each project as well to then track their time. So then when we do a profit and loss at the end of each project, we can then run the profit and loss on each separate category and pick that apart and see what's making money, see what's not. And then we adjust our quote template to suit. You know, we had a job just recently finished that we did a ton of crazy paving at, and that ran over. The cost to lay the paving had gone over by, I think, $6,000 or something. I'm like, wow. Well, we then worked that $6,000 back to how many square meters there were on the project, and then worked that out. Right, we need to up the rate by an X amount per square meter, and so we adjust. You know, and then in this, you know, in a similar project or another project, there was a huge amount, like a big scale of garden works over 200 square meters, and you know, and we did really well on that. And we're like, well, that's probably a bit high. You know, that's, you know, we might lose jobs if we're going to be charging at that. So then any jobs over X amount of square meterage, well, we're going to drop down our square meter rate for soil and mulch by that amount. So we're forever adjusting and changing, and you know, then we know we keep ourselves on the market of where from a pricing perspective is at. So we get a true cost, I guess, analysis on exactly what a job costs, and then as long as we're applying our margin to it, then you know, we can't lose essentially. And it's just you know, as you get bigger and you know, there's more work, there's more mouths to feed, there's more, you know, people that do work for you. You need to track these things and make sure you're on top of them. If you don't, well, you can go backwards very, very quickly.
Yeah, and I love the detail you're doing as well, because so there's one thing to track them, but like, for example, like you might just, if you're just tracking everything generically, like hours overall, not so much allocated to a task, and the same with materials, you could still get yourself in trouble. Like the job I've been working on recently, I lost money on the excavation, but I made heaps on drainage. So I would have come out, if it was just those two items, I would have made a profit. So I could have then looked at it at the end of the job and saw, well, we did well, so everything's going well. But then if I did a job that didn't include drainage and just excavation, then I'd lose money on it. So that wouldn't happen the way you're doing it, because you're, you know, seeing which one wins and which one doesn't.
100%, and we have it all the time. There's always wins and there's always losses. You're never going to win on everything, and we don't expect that to be the case. But generally, what we do try and do is we generally try and run it, our cost from a true cost perspective of materials and labour at almost a break even, you know, and there's always a touch and an allowance there, but then your margin is where you make your money. So, yeah, so as I said, it really is important to track each category, because, you know, you can't just you can't just print a P&L of a project and just go to the bottom line and go, oh yeah, we did okay there, you know, because the next one you won't. The next one after that you might go great, but it's going to ebb and flow if you don't actually track, you know, each category throughout the process.
Yeah. Have you ever had a business coach before, or you just use your project manager?
No, I haven't had a business coach. No, I think probably the reason for it is because we've got so many sort of, I guess, you know, guys in the office. You know, I've got Luke, my business partner, but he's got his own construction company as well. You know, so he's got a construction company. I've got the landscape. Together, we've got, you know, striking pools, and then Chris, who our business manager, he's just recently bought into the pool company. We have got a lot of sort of guys within the office that we can bounce ideas off, and every business decision for any of those businesses are always bounced off one another. And so I think for that reason, we haven't really gone down that path, because we've managed to just between ourselves work out what we need to do to continue to evolve and get better. And Chris does come from he's very tech savvy with the computers, and he, as I said, he did come from another construction business who was, you know, probably, you know, at the fore with doing that sort of stuff as well. So he did bring a lot of stuff to the table that probably a lot of companies weren't doing at that time. And, you know, we just pride ourselves on having that all run smoothly. So yeah, no business coach.
And when you were working at TLC, did you do any of their garden show work that they did?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. So yeah, I didn't mention that actually. I had some good opportunity. We did some of the Melbourne flower and garden shows. I did one like major show garden there with him, and we built also a couple of other. I think we did some of the, what are they called now? Just the smaller show gardens. We built some of them for some of the up and coming designers as well. We did that most years. You know, we were involved in it. I think I was involved in it most years that I did work for Scotty. But the biggest one for me was we got the opportunity to go over to the Chelsea Flower Show in London and build a show garden there for Jack Merlot, who had just won the year prior, won the best in show at the Melbourne Flower and Garden Show. That was just that's an opportunity and memory that I'll, forever be grateful for. It was just an awesome experience. We're over there for, what was it? I think it was about 5 weeks, I think, for the garden show. 3 weeks or 15 solid days of construction. Not a day off. It was just, 6:30 in the morning till 7:30 at night, and it was just. But funnily enough, I think just with the whole hype of being over there, and I think you had someone else on that spoke about this as well. I think I remember hearing it, that the whole hype of being over there and just work. You work that whole. Normally if you do a 13, 14-hour day, you're stuffed. You're like, I can't do that again tomorrow. But it was just up in the morning, and after you've had 8 beers as well, and then you're up in the morning and you're going again. You walk to the garden show, grab a big coffee, and get there and get stuck into it. So it was that for 15 days, and it was just awesome. We loved every minute of it. Created a really good show garden, won gold. And the show ran for for a week or so, whatever it was, a few days, and we got the opportunity on a rostered basis to go and work at the show and on the stand and meet and greet a lot of lovely English people, and then we had the grueling task of pulling it all down in a week as well, and then we also then a few of us stayed on and did a bit of travelling for a few weeks as well. Myself and another guy, Brent, that worked with us, and then Benny and Scotty and Warren, another guy. So a few of us travelled on and saw a bit of Europe, which that was the only time we've been over that part of the world. And I just it's a great memory and a great opportunity that I got. It would be really nice. It'd be good that if it was still, I guess. I'd love to see Australian contingents start to do it again, and get over there. It'd be really good to see.
Yeah. It's on my bucket list of things to do. My days to go over there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because that's pretty cool. You've been overseas twice because of your job.
Yeah.
It's going to be.
Yeah. Through my 6 years of working at TLC, I got that opportunity to go overseas, on 2 occasions for differing things. It's something that I take on a personal level. I'm really high pride in and very grateful for. But and on top of that as well, learnt so much, about how to work under pressure, all these different things that you don't normally deal with on a general day-to-day basis. But yeah, definitely great opportunities.
And I know with the Melbourne Flower Garden Show, you can't dig into the ground, but Chelsea you can. And Melbourne looks a bit like a mess at the end when everything pulled down. So I can imagine how bad Chelsea would look at the end.
Oh yeah. Well, it's like pulling down a complete job. It was a lot more structural, and the garden we built was, a lot of it was prefabricated, prior, and we shipped it all over. Because I don't know if you remember, it was a big curved like decking with a curved like water feature that came down into a swimming pool. And so that was all a big steel structure. So to try and pull all that apart, we had to get cranes in and forklifts, and there was just so much construction with it. This huge big pier and this steel pergola, and it wasn't easy to pull down, and it was a bit deflating to pull down too after you created this. And all about this. You create these beautiful show gardens, and they're up for a few days and so on, and then you just got to have the grueling task of pulling them all down. I don't reckon the designers or the people main involved in it should be excluded from pulling these gardens down. Yeah,
there should be some crew that just comes in, just walk away at the end and never see it again.
Saves you the heartache.
So have you got plans to, with the size of the company now, because it sounded like you sort of just grew organically to where it is now. There weren't any plans to grow to a certain size. So have you sort of put a cap on it just to maintain what it is now, or would you grow if the opportunity arose?
Oh, look, I've never shut the door on growing and evolving. We're big on growing and evolving. It's something you're going to forever try to keep doing. But in saying that as well, I'm very content with how things are now. I've got a great team, a really good team of landscapers, really good team of pool builders, really good management team and people around me, and things are going really well, and everyone's enjoying what they're doing, and so for the interim, I don't think I have any aspiration of it getting any bigger. We really just want to pride ourselves on having a manageable amount of work always ahead of us. We schedule things properly, so we ensure that we're delivering a really good high-end product every single time, and client satisfaction is our number one. So we want to ensure that we do that. So I think with scaling and growing, that's always one thing you've got to consider, because that can slip, and And, you know, there was a point probably last year where we were testing the boundaries of that because we were getting up to sort of, you know, just we were taking on and having crossover on jobs, and there was probably a little bit too much going on. And we reassessed at the end of the year. And that's when Nick, who I said before was my project manager for Landart, he was sort of he was running everything, and we didn't have Sean underneath him at that time. And we said, look, we need to, what can we do? We need to make things better. And Nick, I need to relieve you. You're too under the pump. You know, and we come up with the idea of, you know, elevating Sean up into that construction manager role. So then that further, you know, just relieved everyone. And then we've got the site foreman on every site, and then the guys that work under them. And since we've done that, from the start of the year till now, you know, it's been a lot, you know, more calm. Everyone's working just normal 40 to 45 hour weeks, you know, max, including myself, even less some weeks myself. You know, I've got 3 kids at home, young kids, and, you know, and so I'm wanting to be around to help and, you know, drop the kids at kinder and, you know, just be a good family man and not have to be completely under pressure. So from a lifestyle perspective, things are good across the board at the moment, and including myself. I'm really happy with where it's at. So I don't really have the aspiration to go and ruin that and throw myself further in the deep end again. I reckon my wife would back me on that as well. She wouldn't want me to do that. So no, things are good. We're happy with how it is at the moment.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. And I listened again to you when you were chatting with the Front Garden podcast, and I don't know if you just won the Pool of the Year then, or if it was and you'd also won the Best Landscape Victoria Awards of $250,000.
Yeah.
Were you then in the did you win the Landscaper of the Year, like the national one? Were you in that?
No, I haven't won that award before. No,
you were in it though, weren't you? Because I'm pretty sure I voted for you. I like that garden.
Yeah, no, I didn't win that one. That was yeah, I don't know what ended up happening there, but yeah, the only award we've won from a landscape perspective is that award for over $250,000 construction.
Right.
Which, you know, awards, you know, talking about the awards, you know, that's another thing we're, you know, pretty big on. We have been big on more so with the pool company, generally because that was that company only got started in 2016. So we've, you know, as I said from the start, we've marketed that and tried to drive it really well, and, you know, so we've entered quite a lot of awards and won quite a few awards with that, which is good. That all helps build the brand, but it's also it's good to, you know, to do that, to get involved, give back, you know, and get a few awards, and, you know, get, you know, just to help, you know, marketing and things just to continually make things better. But yeah, so I need to probably get entered into a few more landscape awards, I reckon, because I've only got the one where they're heavily outweighed by the pool awards in the office here, but that's all right.
Yeah. And have you entered any of your employees into the World Skills competition? Like, is that still going?
Oh, no, to be honest, I haven't really heard, you know, too much about it. After I was involved in it from a competing point of view, I stayed involved for a few more years as a judge as well. So I was going and judging the national competitions and the regional competitions and so on. And then they had a change of guard of who was sort of running the landscaping side of things, and it did. I think it fizzled off. I think not fizzled off. Like, they still do it, but I don't know if they do the international pathway for it at the moment. They still do. They've still got it for all the other trades, but I'm not quite sure. I've sort of lost touch a little bit with the World Skills side of things, but I would really like to think that is still going, because from my experience, it was such a great experience. I would love my apprentices, you know, or at least one of my apprentices to go through it and you know, have that opportunity as well. So you're not entirely sure, but yeah, something I probably should look into. And
where do your apprentices do their schooling? Is it on site, or do you send them off somewhere?
No, they go to school. They go to Melbourne Polytechnic in Fairfield. You know, they are that's where I got taught. A lot of the same teachers are still there. You know, so I know I got taught well, had a good experience there, enjoyed my time there. So, you know, I put all of the apprentices through that. Yeah.
And do you do have you a mentor? Are you a mentor to any like past employees, like those two guys who started their business? Do you help anyone out, or?
Yeah, not really. Like I do help. I do help a lot of guys. I have helped. Sorry, yeah, not those two guys that went out and started on their own. They were really good tradesmen and still are. They do some really good work. They've built some really good relationships with some designers, and they're flying. So they don't really need my help by any means. But I've had a couple of other guys that have left me and they've gone out and started their own thing, and I do help. We send work their way. So some of those guys are the guys I mentioned through, say, the pool company that we slide some of the smaller projects over to. I do get phone calls here and there for business advice, and I'm happy to help. I'm happy to be someone they can call upon for advice if they need it. But yeah, it's not something that's set up on a regular basis or anything.
Yeah. Have you ever thought of doing anything at the garden show with Landart?
Yeah, I've had thoughts about it. Had a bit of a meeting with Trent when I was there this year, and I haven't sort of followed him up since about it. We've just been too busy since, but yeah, something that I'd definitely consider. Going there when I caught up with you, and I was doing some work for Landscape Victoria that day. That was first time I've been there in a few years, and it sort of gave me a bit of the itch again to want to get back into it, and potentially do it for myself. We did a show garden at the Melbourne Pullmans Bar Show, I think last year or the start of last year. It's a very different thing, and being involved in the garden shows back with working for Scotty, I know that, that's the sort of the pinnacle. That's what you want to be doing if you're going to be doing show gardens. So, yeah, definitely something that could be on the horizon for sure.
How was the Pullmans Bar Show? Because when Darren Bradbury was on, he said you get like heaps more work from the Pullmans Bar Show than you do from the garden show. Yeah,
it was. I guess it's hard to gauge because I haven't done the garden show as such. The garden show, and you could probably, I guess, tell me more about it.
You get nothing from it.
Nothing. Yeah, right. I guess it's more of a spectacle than anything else, isn't it? It's not really you go into the Pullmans Bar Show and it's just chock-a-block with people trying to sell your pools and sell you stuff about landscaping. And the garden show is very different in that regard. It's great things to come and see, all these beautiful gardens that people have created in a couple of weeks. But so we did get a good amount of inquiry from it, to be honest. The conversion rate on jobs it's still probably not worth the time and effort that you put into it.
Yeah.
So if I had to say it'd be worth it and would I do it again, probably not the Pullmans Bar Show, but with the Melbourne Flower and Garden Show, it'd be again probably more for the reason you do it. It's just probably more for a bit of self-enjoyment, self-promotion on your business, and just to further enhance yourself. But that's probably all it's for, really, isn't it?
Yeah. Would you get striking pools in there as well?
If I did it, I think I'd be silly if I didn't do something with the two and create the pool and landscape. Because we did that with the Pullmans Bar Show, and it worked well. It looked nice, but it's that was obviously just built over a concrete floor. You've got a little bit more room for elevations and slope, lay of the land, and so on with the garden show. So you come up with some stuff that's probably a little bit more funky. So yeah, definitely, if I was to do it, I'd definitely incorporate the pool into it. Yeah.
I went to I can't remember what it was. It might have been a Landscape in Victoria meeting one. It was probably 7 or 8 years ago. But there was a pool builder there who was previously a landscaper, and he was talking about how if you do well in landscaping, you might make 10% profit, whereas in pools you make around 30%.
Yeah.
So are you looking at striking pools thinking, geez, I wish the landscaper would make that much profit?
Yeah, 100%. He's not wrong. I guess the pools are a thing that, yes, they're all different and unique in their shape and size and curves and infinities and all the bells. There's all different things that go with it, but from a construction methodology, they're all built in the same way. They all get excavated, they all get steel fixed, they all get pre-plumbed, and they all get shot credit, they all get tiled, the equipment gets fit off, and you hand them over. So it's an orderly process on every single pool. It's just different in their scale, shape, and size, as I said. So from that point of view, there's not, with landscaping, as you're well aware, there's so many unique, in every single job that you would price, Joe, I have no doubt you'd be the same as me. There's something that you've never priced before, or there's something that you've got to sit down and try and work out, or you've got to obviously get external trades of price. And there's so much more risk involved with landscape pricing because, things can go wrong. There's things you haven't done before and all the rest of it. Whereas this is the same process start to finish with swimming pools. So, you've got your excavation rates, you've got your steel fixing rates from your steel fixers, so you put them in, and you've got your plumbing rates from either your plumbers or whether you can do it yourself. Same thing with the tilers, shotcreaters, pool equipment. So it is more methodical, and then you can work it out more cohesively, and then and the margins can be better at times with the swimming pools as well. So it is probably a safer bet in terms of being able to make money, that's for sure. But you know, I'm a landscaper at heart, you know, and I guess like yourself, you know, the landscaping is you're never going to make $1 million a year. You know, it's most people that stick at it and stay at it for their whole career do it because they love it, you know, and that's what it more so comes down to than anything.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty crazy when you think about how much harder physically it is to do landscaping compared to pool building, and then you make less money on it.
100%, and it's just generally management in most cases with the pools, you know.
Yeah. I thought of doing it, but then I realised I can't even. I need to work on how to run a landscaping business, so I can't run a pool one as well. And I don't like water. There's so many issues with water, so it's not ideal for building pools.
There you go, mate. That's your calling, to stay away from it.
Exactly. Last question for you, Simon, is who do you think would be a good guest to have on the podcast?
I think to have a good guest on the podcast. I'm not quite sure if you've had her on yet, but a very interesting one that I feel would be good to get on the podcast would be Kate Seddon. Have you had her on?
No, not yet.
I haven't. No, I'd get in touch with her. She's a huge, big wealth of knowledge in the landscape design game. Very passionate about her soft landscaping and her planting, and she's very passionate about landscaping in general. You know, I've got a really good relationship with Kate. We built a lot of her projects, and she ensures that the best result is happening every time. So she'd be a very good one to get on, I reckon. Yeah,
awesome. Yeah, I like her style. I spoke to her at the Warners event recently as well. So I'll do that. Thank you for that. Thank you very much for coming on and sharing your story. As a fellow landscaper, I absolutely loved this chat and getting into all the details. So hopefully someone else did as well.
Thanks, Joel. It certainly has, mate. Been a pleasure.